In a world where the population does not seem to decrease, there stands a country which is one of the most deserted countries in the world. With an unimaginable history and a terrifying present, the Western Sahara stands alone on the map with very few citizens. So why is the Western Sahara so deserted? What is the terrifying situation in this country? And how can the future be better for them? Wait till the end to find out some shocking facts about this place. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like. First things first, let us take a deep dive into their history. What lies in the history of the Western Sahara? Well, much like any other African region, this country too has a rather rich and complex history that has shaped it into the nation it is today. The story dates back thousands of years, where there used to be a tribe called the Berber-speaking tribes that populated the area, and these people were cut out of the toughest cloth, as they were survivors of the harsh desert climates and were used to living a nomadic lifestyle, which was the only reason they were able to survive the scorching heat and the shivering cold of the desert. Every time the climate conditions got worse, the tribe used to shift their homes and return when it became more favorable. During their travels, they often made paintings and created different forms of art. In fact, some of the oldest rock art in Africa till this date is found in the Western Sahara region, marking a testament to their lifestyle and evolution of humans. Let's now fast forward to the 19th century, where the Western Sahara region was colonized by the Europeans, along with most other African nations, and the citizens were enslaved by them to work on their farms. The Western Sahara region was colonized by Spain in the second half of the 19th century, and was under their rule for nearly a century after that. Today, the impact of the Spanish rule is visible on them through their language, culture, and overall behavior. In fact, the reason that the Western Sahara is still considered to be a disputed territory is because the roots of this conflict go back to the colonial era. Nearly half a century ago, waves of independence started to flood to the Western Sahara, as they started to break the shackles of slavery and started pursuing their dream of becoming an independent nation. This was a movement that was sparking the entire African subcontinent. The Polisario Front, which was the Sahrawi nationalist movement, which was founded in 1973, 3 years before independence, and was birthed with the sole purpose of putting an end to the Spanish rule and establishing Western Sahara as a free nation. However, Spain was not the only country that Western Sahara was in conflict with. They had their fair share of conflicts with countries like Morocco and Mauritania. So while Spain was pushed out of the Western Sahara in 1976, the nation was not an independent nation for long, as this opened the path for Morocco and Mauritania to lay their ground on Sahrawi soil. This led to the Western Sahara War, which was fought out in a conflict between the Polisario Front and the Moroccan army. While Mauritania withdrew themselves from the threat of war, Morocco picked up their swords and managed to take thousands of Sahrawis as refugees. Here's a fact. Ceasefire was declared in 1991 after intervention by the United Nations, 16 years after the beginning of the war. However, the status of the Western Sahara still remains in conflict, with Morocco controlling the majority of the nation and the Polisario Front having the smaller piece of the cake, yet fighting and advocating the idea of freedom to help declare independence from the Sahrawis. Now, let us address the question, why is the Western Sahara so deserted? Now that you have understood the history of this nation, let us focus on the fact that in spite of all that has happened to the country, it still stands as a deserted nation. To put it in short, the main reason falls in the harsh geographical and climate conditions of this place. As of July of 2024, only 598,000 people occupy this vast country. To put it into context, that is 14 times less than the population of New York and nearly 50,000 people less than the average football at Coachella this year. Isn't that shocking? Do subscribe to our channel so we won't be deserted. The Western Sahara has land spread across 266,000 square kilometers or 103,000 square miles, which means that mathematically there are barely 2 people living per square kilometer. Most of the land there is covered by massive sand dunes, rocky plants, and barely any vegetation, making survival there next to impossible for any living beings. Western Sahara is also one of the driest places in the world, recording slightly less than 100 millimeters of rainfall each year. Question break to you viewers. If you had to survive for an entire month in the driest Saharan desert, what 3 essential items would you bring? Comment below with your choices and why you picked them. This goes without saying that the Western Sahara records some of the highest and driest temperatures in the world throughout the year. During the day, the heat can wave up to 50 degrees Celsius or 122 degrees Fahrenheit, while at night it tips at the other end of the scale and hits near freezing temperatures, sometimes even crossing the 0-degree mark. These extreme weather fluctuations make survival really difficult for the existing creatures that live there. Furthermore, the lack of water over there is another major reason why the Western Sahara does not host any vegetation other than the hardiest plants and animals that were created to survive such conditions. So what is the current situation in the Western Sahara? Let us take a step back from the harsh natural conditions of the Western Sahara and take a look at the man-made difficulties that are being faced over there. The first one would be political status and disputes. To date, the Western Sahara stands as a disputed territory, with Morocco controlling nearly 80% of the country, which includes the major cities and repositories of its major natural resources. With regards to the remaining 20%, the Polisario Front is the one that controls it and comes under the administration of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, or the SADR for short. For decades now, the United Nations has interfered in the ongoing crisis in the Western Sahara and has tried to help it become a self-governing nation, but it has been unsuccessful despite all of its attempts. So much so that the United Nations has been trying to organize a referendum for all the Sahrawi people to give them the power to decide their own future. It has been going on for nearly a decade now, but the process has been so long and complicated that the discussion remains shelved. The Western Sahara crisis has also been the root cause of multiple humanitarian issues and has led to some serious consequences. Thousands of Sahrawis have been living against their will as refugees in their neighboring country, Algeria's refugee camp. What makes it worse is that the Western Sahara cannot even pay for their aid, and they have to rely on international aid for survival. These camps have been existing for decades and have been the home to multiple generations of Sahrawi folk. Many of the people have never seen the light of freedom for even one day of their lives. But let us not take any credit away from the Sahrawi people, as in spite of all the detrimental conditions that they are living in, they have built a resilient community in the camps by creating their own hospitals, schools, and playgrounds, along with their mini political system as well. Having said that, the Western Sahara still faces a major economic crisis. While the region is rich in natural resources, particularly phosphates and minerals, with several fishing grounds off of its coast, the ongoing conflicts and lack of a proper government have hindered its economic development. However, if the conflicts were resolved and the Western Sahara was able to create a stable government after centuries of slavery, could they actually rebuild themselves and become a self-functioning nation? Who knows? So what is their hope for the future? Well, as they say, never give up, as there is always hope. Efforts taken by other countries and the United Nations continue to give the Sahrawis a ray of hope in their dark lives. Adding to that, there is potential for renewable energy products to come in and make the Western Sahara their ground for building plants. These projects could give the Western Sahara the necessary revenue they need to stand on their own feet. But what will stand stronger? A history of crisis and torturous living conditions, or enormous pressure from some of the most prominent nations in the world? Only time will tell. Meanwhile, why don't you tell us what you think about the Western Sahara situation in the comments below? Do you know why Haiti is not like the Dominican Republic? Find out in this video.